So in Natlan, we're going to be getting a free 4-star Geo Polearm user. Just like every other region, we get a free new character from that region because that region usually has a special gimmick in the overworld. So they give us one free one, and this is the one we're getting in 5.0. She also scales off defense, and her bonus ascension stat is geo damage. Her regular attacks kinda don't really do anything, so skipping right to her skill, she summons a twirling top that can do multiple things. You can leave the top and let it run idle and it'll do interval damage, or she can actually hop on top of it and do damage that way. There's 2 different modes you can use her skill in, as well as traverse the land with. It'll be a good mobility tool just for exploration alone. This will also put her in the Night Soul Blessing state, which every Natlan character has this state so far, the ones that we have, all 3 new ones for 5.0. And she'll gain 50 Night Soul points. Night Soul points are what allow her to spin on her top, and when she runs out of points, the duration will run out. If she summons her spinning top, but doesn't hop on it to ride it, it'll just do interval, geo, area of effect damage that scales off her defense. If she chooses to ride it, however, you can smash the ground using a normal attack while riding it, and this will also do area of effect geo damage based off her defense. This is also considered a geo construct, but you can only have 1 top on the field at a time. The cooldown for her skill is 20 seconds, but the Night Soul point limit, the max limit you can reach, is 60. At level 10, her skill will do damage up to 114% of her defense. For her burst, she strikes the ground doing area of effect geo damage, kind of like when you throw Albeto's skill down, and there'll be an area of effect field, similar to his skill. The difference though is when you're actually in this field and you use her skill, the spinning top move, area of effect damage will increase, as well as the movement speed when she decides to hop on it and ride it. So in theory, you should probably use her burst before her skill. Her burst will last for 12 seconds, and the cooldown is 18 seconds with a 70 energy cost. Similar to the other 2 characters, there are certain areas around Natlan where even if you run out of Night Soul blessings, you can still maintain your skill duration. So for her situation, it would be using her spinning top to ride around. That is where the whole Natlan gimmick comes into play. Because all of these characters have that Night Soul Blessing gimmick, obviously they're meant to traverse the land much more freely and easily if you're in Natlan. Get the home field advantage. Additionally, she'll consume 90% less stamina while riding in Natlan. Her other passive, when nearby party members trigger a Night Soul burst, she'll gain geo damage bonus increased by 20% for 10 seconds. Her other passive just increases her spinning top's damage by 20% of her defense, so more defense scaling. Her Constellation 1, when she dismounts or mounts her twirly top, she'll absorb elemental shards caused by the crystallized effect, restoring her energy. For C2, when you use her burst, she'll automatically regain 16 Night Soul points. You already start with 20 points when you use her skill to begin with. So when you use her burst, you'll actually gain an additional 16. So you're almost increasing your skill duration by 80%. Her C3 increases her skill talent level by 3. Her C4 is pretty interesting. When she creates that giant field with her burst, that lasts for 12 seconds. If you're fighting a mob or a lot of enemies, depending on how many enemies are in that field or area, you'll gain an additional 8, 12, 16, or 20% increased defense on any active character you have on the field at that time. So, for example, if you're fighting 4 hilly trolls in that area, you're gonna get a 20% automatic defense buff on whoever you have on the field. This will be neat for characters that are a little bit frail, like the Wanderer, but will be really good damage buffers for characters that scale off defense for damage like Arataki Ito or Chiori, for example. Her C5 increases her burst talent level by 3, and her C6, when your active character's shield is replaced or destroyed for any reason, she will deal 200% of her defense as area of effect geo damage by default, and this effect can be triggered every 5 seconds. Naturally, if you're pairing her with a shield character, Noelle, Zhongli, I'm not sure how this will actually impact with Crystallize, but it didn't specify, so I'm going to assume probably doesn't work with Crystallize. But any shield character, when you renew their shield or it gets broken, she's going to be able to add extra damage just by default. That's kind of neat. And because she's a free 4-star character, getting her at C6 is very viable. so her constellations are much more relevant. Now naturally, just going off her kit, there is going to be new artifact sets and pole arms released in Natlan, but unlike the 5-star character, she's not going to get her own signature set, but she really doesn't need it. She scales purely off defense in every metric. As for artifacts, she actually has the advantage here as well because she's not getting a signature 5-star set that you're going to have to farm and wait for Natlan to release. You can farm her best in slot set right now, which is easily going to be the Husk of Opulent, the same set that Arataki Ito uses. Because it has a defense percentage buff of 30%, she completely scales off defense, so attack percentages don't matter at all. And the 4-piece set gives her both defense percentages and geo damage bonuses, which both benefit her. But if you don't like this set or haven't farmed it because maybe it's a kind of a niche set and you haven't had the chance to farm it yet, you can easily put this 2-piece set with another 2-piece that has either geo damage bonus or more defense. It really is up to you. Personally, I'd probably go with the latter and add some geo damage bonus for her. So a 2-piece Husk set and a 2-piece Petra set possibly. And the 4-piece set if you want to go for a more supportive sub DPS route, because she's already giving defensive buffs to anyone in your party within her area of effect with her burst, you can also add to that by causing crystallized reaction that will also give her party members 35% damage bonus for whatever element you crystallize with. And if you're only using 2 different elements, then it won't be hard to do. Those are definitely the best options we have for her right now. If there's another set you want to try, by all means, this is meant to just be a benchmark guide, but those will be the most optimal that I can see right now. As for weapons, there's really not a lot of options. Because she's a polearm, it's too bad she's not a sword user because I have a Cinnabar spindle that my Albedo has been sitting on the shelf gripping with his life, and this weapon would be perfect for her. But no, she's a polearm user. I really don't even think there's a defensive polearm in the game. I could be wrong. I certainly don't own one. But there is one option that stands out among the rest. The Deathmatch, which is a battle pass weapon. It's pretty obtainable, and it's pretty easily refined. I'm sure a lot of you have refined it by now. It's been out for a long time. It's got a crit rate substat, but the extra passive ability that it has, if you're facing 2 or more opponents, you'll get an attack and defensive buff of 16%, and that's only at R1. If you R5 this weapon, it could be much greater. But unfortunately, if you're only facing one enemy, like a giant boss or something, then you just get an attack buff. Still, this is the closest thing I can find to give her a defensive buff extra, while also giving her crit rate for the extra edge. Besides this, your best route, depending on if you want to use her as a sub DPS support or sub DPS, you can either go energy recharge to help your bursts uptime, or go for the little bit of offense and give her like the Black Cliff with crit damage, even something like the Jade Spear that has crit rate, depending on what substat you're lacking. Another not so bad option is the Catch, which you can get for free at R5 in Inazuma through the fishing. It increases your elemental burst damage by 32% and your burst crit rate by 12%, while also giving you energy recharge. But keep this in mind as well, you're also going to be using Kachina on at least one or more Geo character comps, maybe even a mono Geo team. So will energy really be an issue for you? Probably not. But those are just some options. The defensive polearm pool is really not that plentiful. Before I get into team comps, I'm just going to say that I think her 2 best characters are going to be Arataki Ito and Chiori. I don't even have any of those characters, but I don't think she's going to be a hard character to plug and play wherever you need her to, whether it's for more casual gameplay or a competitive route. As for different team comps, the Mono Geo seems to be a good option. She'll be excellent at supporting while being able to deal pretty decent damage. She also synergizes well with shielding characters, but she'll be able to add sustainability for really frail characters as well. So if there's a few team comps where you just don't quite have that 4th slot you're able to fill, she might be a really good option and a nice secondary damage option. Or even running her in the 2-2 kind of like Navia. Run another Geo character with her and then 2 other Pyro characters to have just a dual team of some sort. Run the generic Farina team, or she can be the main DPS in this exact team and throw in Zhongli instead. If you don't have Farina, you could put Mona in there with maybe Goro, keep Zhongli. These are just some options depending if you want to use her as your main DPS or have her supporting some other characters. Remember, we're also getting a new Geo character as well, and she looks to be a 5-star if I'm not mistaken. But again, I've been saying this a lot today, Natlan characters are going to synergize with each other very well, and she's no different. These are just some options for artifacts, weapons, and different characters you can run her with. Because she's Geo and adds very generic buffs, she's obviously going to synergize with other Geo characters, mostly, but there's going to be a wide variety of different team comps you can plug her in and she'll work just fine. Not to mention she has an insanely versatile and cool overworld travel mechanic, so that's going to be fun in its own right, and she's going to be free, so you'll definitely have a chance to try her out, with no cost to your wallet or your primo gems you've been saving. But with that said, I hope this was helpful, hope you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.